Welcome back to the deep dive.
No.
Today, we're going to be talking about credit scores.
That's right.
But this isn't going to be like your typical finance lecture or anything like that.
Right.
We're really going to be diving into some pretty fascinating research.
Yeah.
About how these three little digits.
Yeah, three little digits, that's right.
Can have a ripple effect.
Huge ripple effect.
On your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like
it's huge.
You know how like when you're ready to buy a house?
Oh yeah.
And you've got your down payment saved up, you're feeling great.
Yep.
And then like, bam.
Oh yeah.
You find out your credit score is holding you back.
That's right. And that's exactly what we're talking about.
We're talking about, that's rough.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, and this research really dives into not only just that, but like how credit scores can be impacted by psychosocial disabilities.
Interesting stuff.
And then also we get into like legal gray areas and even potential solutions that you've probably never even heard of.
That's what I love about this research. It's fascinating. It's really interesting stuff.
Like most of us know that credit scores matter.
Of course.
But we probably don't realize how much they've like really integrated themselves into our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, just think about how
every little thing.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like imagine it's the 1940s. Okay. Pre-credit score.
Pre-credit score.
You need a loan to buy a refrigerator.
Back in the day.
And this article that we're looking at in the Boston University Law Review really does a great job of this.
Yeah.
They're saying like you would waltz into the store and instead of like crunching numbers, the shopkeeper would like size you up.
Yeah, they'd use their judgment.
Yeah, and like using their gut feeling.
Their gut feeling.
About your character.
About your character, that's right.
It was all about like...
It's about personal connection.
Your personal connection.
Your reputation.
Your reputation, yeah.
Like, can I trust this person?
Yeah.
Based on like...
Face-to-face how they're acting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Face-to-face.
Wild.
It's so different from today.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Like now it's all...
Now it's all algorithms.
Algorithms, data points.
Data points, yeah.
These crazy formulas that nobody even understands.
I know, and nobody really knows exactly what they are.
Right.
Like what goes into them.
Like I saw one source that said there's like over 300 data points.
Wow, really?
That go into one person's score.
Over 300? Like 300
data points.
It's mind-boggling.
That's a lot.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not even just if you can get a loan.
No, it's not just about
what your interest rate's going to be.
That's right.
It's like everything.
It's way beyond that.
Right.
It's everything.
Like potential employers.
Oh, yeah.
Are checking your credit history. Employers are looking at your credit history.
Before they even call you for an interview.
Before they even call you in for an interview.
Like what? Well, landlords use it.
Landlords are using it.
To screen their tenants.
To screen tenants.
Yeah. Insurance companies.
Yeah, and even insurance companies.
Are factoring this into your premiums.
That's right, they are.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Insurance companies too.
Insurance companies are looking at it too.
What?
Yeah, because they think...
How does that even make sense?
Well, they're trying to figure out...
I mean...
How likely you are to like file a claim.
So they're saying like if you have bad credit, you're more likely to like get in a car accident or something.
Something like that, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're trying to...
I had no idea.
Predict the future.
Wow.
Essentially, using your credit score.
It's like another level.
It's another level.
That people don't even realize.
Most people don't even know about.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Okay, so...
We've established that credit scores are...
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
They're impacting. Like,
big decisions, little decisions.
Yeah, huge decisions in our lives.
That's right.
But here's where our deep dive takes a turn. Okay, we're going to bring in mental health. Right. How does that factor in?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And this research article that we're looking at does not shy away from the tough questions. Yeah. They really like go head first into,
right into it.
This intersection of credit scores and what they call psychosocial disabilities.
Yeah, I've heard of that term. I'm not sure everyone knows what that is, though.
Right. So, like, for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with that term, psychosocial disability, that's a really broad umbrella term.
It is a very broad umbrella, yeah.
And it covers a whole range of mental health conditions.
Okay.
Things like...
Like what?
Bipolar disorder.
Okay.
Depression, schizophrenia.
You know, any kind of condition that could impact
a
person's thinking or behavior.
Yeah, their decision making.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to be clear, this is not about saying that everyone with a psychosocial disability is going to struggle with their finances.
Right.
That's not true.
No. Not at all.
And then the research makes that very clear.
Yeah, they make that very clear.
But what it does highlight is that
What to say.
certain conditions,
Okay.
especially during periods where someone's actively experiencing symptoms, that can really influence their financial decision making.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like, for example,
Yeah.
someone who's experiencing like a manic episode,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
they might engage in risky investments.
Oh, yeah.
Or go on these like impulsive spending sprees.
Spending sprees?
And they're racking up all this debt.
Oh, no.
And they're not really thinking about the consequences.
Right. They're not thinking clearly.
Right. Or someone who's struggling with really severe depression.
Yeah. Might just like withdraw completely.
Oh.
And then they start neglecting their bills.
They don't pay their bills?
They're not really paying attention to their finances.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like the illness itself.
The illness itself. Wow.
Is almost leading to these financial behaviors.
Yeah.
That can really impact their credit score.
And then that's going to have a ripple effect.
Exactly. And we know
everything else.
A low credit score impacts everything.
Everything.
It's not just about getting a credit card or a loan anymore.
Right. It's way more than that.
It's everything.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, think about the added burden.
Oh, yeah. The burden
of like having to manage this psychosocial disability.
Right, because now you have to pay for
the therapy, medication,
specialized care.
If you're not able to work.
Right.
Yeah.
And those costs add up.
Costs add up so fast.
So fast.
And that's going to affect.
And then that leads to
your credit score even more.
Medical debt.
Medical debt. There you go.
Which just tanks your credit score.
It's a vicious cycle.
It's like this awful cycle. You're dealing with this health challenge that's creating potential financial strain, which then impacts your ability to get the resources and support you need to manage your well-being.
It's like they all affect each other.
It's a mess.
It's a big mess, yeah.
And this is where we get into like the issue of fairness.
The fairness, okay.
Because how fair is a system?
Right. Is it really fair?
That's not. Considering these nuances, these real life challenges that people are facing.
It's not looking at the whole picture.
It's just not right.
No, it's
like,
not.
Should someone be judged solely on their credit score if that score was impacted by like a period of illness?
Right, like they were really struggling.
Should they be denied opportunities?
Just because of that.
Housing employment?
Yeah.
Because of decisions they made when their judgment was clouded?
When they weren't thinking straight.
By a medical condition.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's tricky.
It's really tricky.
And it gets even more complex.
Oh, yeah.
When you bring in social inequalities.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's not a level playing field.
No, it's not a level playing field at all.
Right.
No.
Statistically, women and minorities face higher rates of both.
For both of those things.
Financial distress and psychosocial disabilities.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy.
It's a double whammy.
It's not fair.
And it's something that we can't ignore.
We can't ignore that, no.
Absolutely.
We have to talk about it.
So we've got this super complex issue where like this system's not really built.
Not really considered.
To take into account mental health.
All the nuances, no.
Right.
It's tough.
And it's even harder. Yeah.
For like
especially
certain groups.
For certain groups.
To stay afloat.
Yeah.
You know, with all this. And it makes you wonder like where do the laws stand on all this?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Like, are there any protections in place?
Right, are there protections?
For people in these situations.
Because it seems like there should be.
Right.
Right.
And this is what I thought was really cool about this research article.
Okay.
Is that they lay out the legal side of this whole thing.
Interesting.
And they highlight 3 main areas.
3 main ones.
Of the law.
Okay.
That should, at least on paper, offer some protection.
Okay, what are those?
So we've got the ADA.
Okay, the ADA.
Which is the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Right.
And then you've got the Fair Housing Act.
Okay.
The FHA.
FHA, gotcha.
And then get this.
Yeah.
There's an international treaty.
Called the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
Wow.
The CRPD.
CRPD.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a mouthful.
I know it's a long one.
Okay.
So let's break those down a little bit.
Okay.
So the ADA, most people probably think about like employment, right? Making sure workplaces are accessible.
Right, like you can physically get into the building.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and like inclusive for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then FHA, that's all about housing.
Right.
So you can't be discriminated against if you're trying to get housing.
Right.
Okay, got it.
But then we've got this whole international treaty thing.
I know. What is that all about?
Right.
Like, what is that?
So basically, the CRPD, it's like this global rule book for disability rights.
Wow, like for the whole world.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it sets the standard for how countries should be protecting the rights and dignity of people with disabilities.
That's awesome.
And it covers a lot.
Like what kind of stuff?
We're talking accessibility, education, and even financial inclusion.
Oh, wow. So it really is broad.
It's a big deal.
That's amazing.
So in theory, we've got these legal frameworks in place.
Right. We have laws.
The ADA should be preventing employers from discriminating against someone based on a credit score that was impacted by a disability.
Okay.
The FHA should be protecting someone's right to housing.
Right.
Regardless of their credit history.
Okay.
If it was tied to a disability.
Yeah.
And the CRPD is like this overarching agreement.
It's like, the big one.
That this is the right thing to do.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it sounds like we've got all the bases covered.
Right.
Right.
But here's the catch.
Oh, there's a catch?
And it's a big one.
Okay, I'm nervous now.
The research basically says that these protections, they haven't actually been tested in this context.
Wait, what does that even mean?
You're telling me,
like, at all,
that these laws exist, but nobody has actually used them
to challenge this, like...
to challenge credit score discrimination related to mental health.
Wow. So we have the laws, but nobody's using them.
That's what the research is suggesting.
That's crazy.
It's like this untapped legal territory.
Wow.
And it creates this gap between what should be happening and what's actually happening.
Yeah, that's a big gap.
It's huge.
Wow, so what can we even do about that?
Right.
Like, how do we... If the laws are there...
Right, the laws are there.
But they're not being used.
Yeah.
Like, how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It's a tough one.
Like, what do we do?
And thankfully, this article doesn't leave us hanging.
Okay, good.
It actually gives us a bunch of potential solutions.
Okay, I like solutions.
Right.
Give me some solutions.
Some are a little more out there than others.
Okay, I like out there.
But
hit me with it. One approach is to just treat everybody the same, disability or not, when it comes to credit scoring.
So, like, everybody gets the same?
Everybody's the same.
Treatment?
That's the thinking.
Okay.
Because everyone makes financial mistakes.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. So why should we differentiate?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can see how that would seem like the fairest approach.
Right.
On the surface.
Right on the surface.
But doesn't that ignore the fact?
But doesn't it ignore...
that for some people... those financial mistakes... were a result of a medical condition.
Right, exactly.
Something that was completely out of their control.
It wasn't really their fault.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the argument.
That's the argument against that.
Against that approach.
Yeah.
That one size fits all.
Right, because it doesn't fit all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's why some people are pushing for...
a different, more targeted solution.
Okay, like what?
Like this idea of a financial guardian.
Financial guardian. Okay, what's that?
So basically, it would be someone who's legally appointed.
Oh, wow, legally appointed.
To like help manage the finances of a person.
It's someone who's having a hard time.
Might be struggling with their decision making. So like.
So during that time period.
During a manic episode.
Okay.
When they might be more likely to make an impulsive decision.
Right, okay.
They would step in.
And be like, whoa.
And be like.
Pump the brakes.
Hold on a second.
Let's think about this.
Let's think about this.
Okay.
I know you're really excited about this.
Yeah, I like that. But let's hold off.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Right.
So it's like an extra layer of support.
Exactly. It's like a safety net.
I like it.
But I can see how that would raise questions about
like
autonomy and control.
Right, because it's still their money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And that's where another solution comes in.
Okay, what's this one?
It's called the Ulysses contract.
The Ulysses contract? That sounds intense.
I know, right?
What is that?
So think about Odysseus.
Okay.
From, like, the Odyssey. Tying himself to the mast of his ship.
Right, to resist the sirens.
Yeah, right.
So he couldn't, like, go jump in the water.
I get you.
And be lured to his death.
Okay.
It's the same kind of concept.
Okay, so, like, you're tying yourself.
You're pre-committing.
Pre-committing, okay.
To not do something
gotcha.
That, you know, you might be tempted to do.
Okay, so with money, that could be like...
So with money, it could be like setting a spending limit.
On your credit card or something?
On your credit card.
Oh, okay.
Or like blocking yourself from making certain investments.
Interesting.
during a certain time period.
Okay.
When you might not be thinking straight.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah.
So it's all about like being proactive.
Proactive. Okay.
And putting safeguards in place.
I like it.
So that you can kind of protect yourself.
Protect yourself.
From yourself.
Like your future self is thanking you.
Exactly.
Right.
And then beyond these more like individual level solutions.
Yeah.
The article also talks about these bigger picture things. Like, what can we do as a society
to change this,
to make this better?
Right.
So things like expanding access to financial literacy programs.
Yes, that's so important.
That are specifically designed for people with psychosocial disabilities.
Yes, because they might have different needs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Advocating for more flexible credit scoring models.
Yes.
That take into account these nuances.
Right. It shouldn't be one size fits all.
Right.
Yeah.
And pushing for legal precedent.
Yeah.
So that those protections under the ADA, the FHA, the CRPD are actually solidified.
Yes, make it happen. We need to make those real.
It's about recognizing that.
Yeah.
When it comes to something like this,
right.
One size does not fit all.
No, it really doesn't.
It's so complex.
It's so complex.
And that's what I think is so great about this research.
What's that?
Is that it's really like starking this conversation. It's raising awareness about
things we don't talk about.
These challenges.
Yeah.
That people are facing.
Yeah, that a lot of people don't even realize are a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's about creating a more equitable
for sure
and inclusive financial system.
Yes, I love that.
So
that's what we need.
We've covered so much today.
I know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about.
This was just like a little taste.
A little glimpse, a little taste of it.
It's a huge issue.
The tip of the iceberg.
And we really encourage you, go check out this research article.
Please do.
We're going to link it in the show notes.
Yeah.
And like, keep exploring this topic. Keep learning.
Because it's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And it's so important.
It really is.
And here's just one final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
Imagine that your credit score, this number, that like holds so much weight.
All the weight.
Didn't just reflect your financial history.
Okay.
But it also factored in your overall well-being.
Wow.
Like all aspects of your well-being.
That's a really interesting thought.
What would that look like?
Yeah, what would that even look like?
What would need to change?
Yeah, how would we even measure that?
It's a big question.
That's a big question.
But it's definitely something worth thinking about.
It really is.
So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Oh yeah, thanks everyone.
Into the world of credit scores.
Yes, son.
Psychosocial disability.
Very interesting.
And really just like the quest for a more equitable financial future.
Love it.
Until next time.
See you next time.
Keep learning.
Keep diving deep.
Keep questioning.
Yeah. And keep diving deeper.
Bye, everyone.